Hey Kings, and welcome back to the Augustus Maximus channel, and welcome back to the world of Old World Blues, where we're playing The Last Patrol. And the Old World Blues mod, for those who don't know, it's essentially a mod that puts the Fallout world into Hearts of Iron 4, and it's, I think, the only way to actually play a strategy game in the Fallout world. There might be some mod for some game out there, but, well, this is probably the best one. It's probably the most recent one. It's probably the one that the most people know about, and it's the one that has the most made-up lore. Yeah, that's right. But today we're playing The Last Patrol, which is quite an interesting faction, or quite an interesting nation, quote-unquote, to play, because we're essentially playing ghouls that used to be a part of the National Guard. So it's quite a militaristic, a very militaristic feel to it, a very sort of army-ish, almost a very Vietnam era-ish feel to it. Even when you look at the initial focuses, you have Painted Black, you have It Ain't Me, you have Born to Feel, Born to Peel, written on the main guys, our nation's leaders. Helmet. Yep, get the caps. And I think I'll go for the research bonus here, because, well, you know, it's not terrible. So there we go. It's quite an interesting nation to play. Because it's very unusual. There aren't many like ghoul or super mutant factions within the game. There are more Brotherhood of Steel factions than there are like mutant or super mutant or ghoul nations within the. What do you call them? Nations or factions? Or what do you call them? Just interesting, playable, I don't know, tribes, something like that, because there aren't specifically or technically speaking nations. There aren't necessarily factions, because the faction system within Hearts of Iron 4 is essentially like alliances. So, I know, tribe, nation, doesn't really matter. We're playing the last patrol. And it's very interesting, yeah, Painted Black. It's a very interesting nation. You don't necessarily see too often these, like, not only are they extremely militaristic when it comes to the lore, but they're also basically the remnants of the National Guard. It's very interesting because in Fallout lore, when you say remnants, you usually think of like Enclave remnants, or when you say remnants of the army, usually you think Brotherhood of Steel, because you know, the original founder Maximus obviously was a part of the American army for a while. Then he seceded, and the Great War happened, everything like that. And the remnants of the Enclave obviously are actually remnants of the army and the American government, everything like that. So, but when you think of ghouls, you don't necessarily think of remnants. Maybe like civilians or something like that, but most of the ghouls that we've seen in the Fallout games and the Fallout universe, everything like that, they've been mostly civilians, which makes sense. Majority of the population is obviously civilian, but it's kind of nice that you gain the ability to play as a sort of ghoul army remnants, because it does make sense. If you think that there have been obviously quite a number of ghouls, not an insane amount, but there's quite a number of ghouls from before the war, that you'd think that at least some of them would be sort of army remnants, at least to a certain degree, especially the National Guard. So it's kind of nice that we do actually have a faction that represents that sort of situation. And the focus tree is quite interesting, because it does allow you to go down very curious paths. Most notably, it sort of intends you to try and conquer your way towards a formidable faction, Oklahoma. And obviously these guys, the Last Patrol, they were a member of the Oklahoma National Guard, so we're obviously forming Oklahoma, everything like that. It's quite an interesting thing to consider. It sort of reminds me of the factions like the Texas Brotherhood and the the Lone Star and all the factions down south, or the nations down, whatever, down south, that their entire focus, or a lot of their focus, is actually trying to create Texas, like the Texas provisional government, everything like that. So it's forming Oklahoma, or Ghoul-Oklahoma, haha, forming Oklahoma is it's very it's quite fun. A lot of these focuses sort of tend to not within this mod tend to not deal with the pre-war situation that much. And technically the only sort of state we see is the NCR, the New California Republic. But it does make sense that other factions or nations, or what do you want to call them, tribes, within the world of Fallout would want to, except for the Enclave obviously, but would want to sort of recreate what once was, right? Like recreate sort of a state, or some sort of a union within a said border that would represent what was once represented by a name like Oklahoma, like California, like Texas, something like that. Sort of a regional power with ties to previous to sort of a previous state of existence that would give it some sort of legitimacy. And since these guys obviously are ghouls from before the Great War, they're National Guard from before the Great War, it doesn't make sense that they would be trying to form something like that. But there's one issue with that. We are very small. We only have 2 provinces essentially. So that means that we're gonna have to conquer quite a bit till we're able to, well, form Oklahoma at all. And yes, we're already doing a focus that would allow us to declare war on our southern neighbor. Okay, so it seems like they decided to attack me instead. I didn't even get a pop-up that they were justifying on me. Do they just have a decision that allows them to do these things? Well, that's quite an interesting turn of events, but I guess it saves us a few seconds, a few days of research, so it's, well, ultimately it's relatively okay. I mean, this war is going to be, well, it's going to be quite strange, because I have very few divisions, and I don't think they have that many divisions either. This is a very early war from them. I wasn't really gonna declare the war right away. I was gonna just get the war goal and then just build up a bit, maybe 2 or 3 divisions extra for the front line to be actually able to hold the front line properly. But it does seem that this is going to be quite an interesting situation. It doesn't seem like they have a unique focus tree. Even like generic focus trees sometimes can be a bit different within this mod. I've seen at least like 2 or 3 variations of the generic focus tree, so it's quite an interesting mod when it comes to like focus trees and everything like that. Some of them are very linear. For example, the Last Patrol, the Nation, Tribe, whatever, Remnants we're playing right now, they have a very linear focus tree, and essentially if you're playing as this nation, you're always going towards Oklahoma. But since there are so many regional powers, essentially the lack of a unique focus tree is compensated by a bunch of nations that you wouldn't really expect to have unique focus trees, having unique focus trees. However, they are relatively linear. So essentially there is some sort of a compensation in there. You could relatively, you could safely assume that when you're building a mod with a lore that isn't 100% researched, and you don't know everything about everything, and there's no way to know everything about everything, because obviously your knowledge is limited only to the resources that are provided by a bunch of the developers or non-developers. The Fallout Bible is an interesting example when it comes to this, but you sometimes have to make stuff up, or limit yourself when it comes to the amount of choice, because obviously, well, it'd be a little bit too much of a daunting task to create a big variety of choices for every single nation / tribe on the map, when it's not like even base Hearts of Iron 4 has a lot of opportunity for the player to have a lot of choice when it comes to like the generic focus tree and everything like that. So I kind of like the approach the developers took here. But it seems like this war is going to be wrapping up rather quickly. So, yeah, I'm not entirely sure why they declared war on me. I'm not entirely sure if it was like a decision they took, or decision, or like I don't know, because they don't have a unique focus tree. Maybe it's, I don't know. I haven't really played as them. Don't really plan to play as them. But one thing that's definitely for certain is that we are absolutely dominating them in this conflict. We are absolutely smashing them. So the AI maybe somehow recognizes that you are trying to declare war, and they immediately declare war back. I've seen sometimes the last patrol just outright lose to these guys when playing as a different nation. They just get taken over completely. Maybe the guys we're currently fighting just completely like, I don't know, just declared war. We're at the beginning of the game, they don't necessarily care, and sometimes it works out, sometimes they just win. So it's a very interesting situation, very interesting opponent to fight, and you don't necessarily see something like this when it comes to the vanilla game, like a focus, not even a focus, like a decision that would allow you to immediately declare war on one of your neighbors, essentially. It's well, I don't know, but they just left they just left their front line right open, and it seems like we'd be able to just walk to their capital. So let's do that. It's yeah, it does seem like there's nothing here. Great strategists, these guys. Definitely some masterminds we're facing, and they're done. Okay, well, luckily we do have a focus right after this one, or right after we were supposed to conquer them, that allows us to core all of their territories. So yeah, that's an interesting one. Oh, by the way, I'm also running essentially the same mods as I was running in the last Old World Blues mod, which means I'm running the unlimited division count for your generals, and I'm also running the coring mod and player-led peace conferences, which, well, that's just for Border Guard, obviously. The game obviously does have a coring mechanic, but I do feel that the coring mechanic provided with Old World Blues is a bit of a, well, I don't necessarily like it too much, and I think that the coring states mod does it a little bit better, and a little bit more intuitively. So I just prefer that one. That's why I'm using it, really. Alright, so you aren't really supposed to go up against these guys, but they've now raided me like 3 times, and it's getting really annoying to just keep like an entire, I don't know, army staged constantly at their borders. They're currently in a border conflict with one of their other neighbors, so it's these guys aren't necessarily the well, the nicest people. So I think I'm justified when it comes to justifying a war goal. It's something that maybe should be a sort of a, well, a reason to declare war on someone just outright, as in they raid you, so maybe you should just get the war goal. I think that's something that would actually be kind of neat to have in this mod, because there's a lot of raiders, and I think that some border conflicts are okay when it comes to like the cash they steal from you. It's sort of an inconvenience. But sometimes they try to take territory, and if someone takes territory from you, I think it's just okay to outright invade them. Just whatever. It's the wasteland, right? So, like, who are we, like, or it makes sense to me. I don't know, it's like someone just steals all of your caps or steals your land and enslaves your people. I think it's quite okay to just destroy them. Well, that conquest was very short-lived, because now Lanius and Lanius Legion wants, well, they want the territory for themselves, I suppose. Well, Lanius' cohort. They want the territory because, well, I suppose he was supposed to invade them, but didn't get around to it quickly enough. So well, let's just give it back. I don't really want to face. those stats. So and that army and everything like that. We're just well, we have like 4 provinces right now. So let's not get too cocky, okay? But here we go, this is the big turning point for this nation slash tribe slash National Guard, remnant, whatever, patrol. We are throwing down a very big party, and well, everyone's invited. Maybe ghouls just tend to get, you know, party happy sometimes. I haven't really seen anything like that in the Fallout games that I've seen so far. You know, that would indicate that ghouls like to party a little bit more than anyone else. But here we go, we lost our caps. What a tragedy. What a tragedy. I guess we are partying a bit too hard, and we tried to gamble a little bit or whatever. Notice from a commander. Well, that's kind of nice, but yeah, gift from Mike, very good, very good. But yeah, this is quite a chain of events. That's, I think, a little bit a speech for the ages, absolutely brilliant. That's a little bit well, unnecessary? Not unnecessary, but it sort of shows that we have relatively decent, or we had relatively decent relations with the, well, with our neighboring states, neighboring countries, neighboring tribes, whatever. And it all gets, yep, it all goes down the toilet because we partied a little bit too hard. And so now we get war goals on them and claims on them. And this ultimately allows us to form Oklahoma. Now that is a very strange, it's a very strange storyline. It's like, how did your nation come to form? Well, we partied a little bit too hard, and then we got banned, and so we decided their club stank anyway, so we burnt it to the ground. And while we were there, we thought, hey, might as well stick around a little bit. So we cored the territory, obviously, and might as well just form the state, you know? I mean, we are the National Guard of the state. We are 200 years old, so yeah, we just decided to stick around, and we formed Oklahoma. Yeah, that's how everything got started. Quite the national story, quite the state story, quite the story in general. I mean, what the hell? And there we go, there's the war goal, so let's go in. And this war can be, I think, a little bit tricky. As you can see, we're immediately going to go for a whole bunch of encirclements and everything like that, because you really need to whittle them down. You're fighting three, well, tribes, they are tribes, shouldn't they be? Three tribes or nations or whatever that are essentially roughly around the same power level as you are. Meaning they have roughly the same industry, they have roughly the same amount of divisions, they have roughly the same amount of manpower. So you really need to whittle them down. Now, you do gain a whole bunch of stat bonuses when it comes to your focus tree. However, they also have unique focus trees. I think all of them, or at least one or two, have unique focus trees, meaning they also get a whole bunch of stats. And it's if you're not careful, you can really get swarmed. And you need to play it well. You need to play it focusing on encirclements and keeping those river crossings safe. These river crossings can be essentially a good way of, for one, grinding your generals, and two, just depleting their manpower and their equipment, because the AI obviously is just gonna throw themselves on those river crossings. So if you keep them safe with any divisions, really, because they're gonna get, the enemy's gonna get such a massive debuff from trying to cross the river, from the crossing obviously, that they're obviously just gonna get smashed. And since you're fighting on very big tiles, but tiles that somehow just allow for good encirclement opportunities, it's just like this entire war is just about encirclements at the beginning. Like the first 50 to 60% of the war you're fighting on in this general area right here, and you just want to go for the encirclements. And after you kill, like, I don't know, like 10,000 of them, you essentially have free reign over the entire war. You can do whatever you want at that point. You can just, you know, press the button, full aggression, and just smash through all of them, while also keeping in mind that you have to cover those river crossings, because those can really get you because the AI of your soldiers, once you point that arrow, you click that arrow to go forward, they're gonna go forward, and they're not gonna care that there might be some river crossings behind you. They're not gonna cover it on their own, and so you really have to strategize properly. You can see already a 10 KD ratio. That's actually pretty decent. Well, because we've only done like 2 encirclements, and that's the power of the, keeping those river crossings nice and fortified, because, well, it means that the enemy, I don't know why, the AI just constantly throw themselves at the crossing. Maybe if they have a little bit like an advantage when it comes to the manpower, like maybe you have 5 divisions there, they have like 7. They think that they're powerful enough to do the attack. So I know it's kind of a strange tactic from the AI, but if you just try and take these combats where you're really at a good advantage, or these fights or these pushes, whatever, where you really have the advantage, you're just gonna win and it's gonna be no problem. So it's quite interesting, where you do need to use your head a tiny bit, but it's mostly just about encirclements, really, nothing too complicated. Here we go, the war should be over any minute now, and yeah, there we go. It's quite an interesting war, not many losses, a lot of good, a lot of good combat situations that you have to take, as I said again. It's quite a good war, which is a strange thing to say, but essentially the whole aesthetic of this nation slash tribe slash remnants is that you're essentially something like just soldiers. They have the aesthetic of Vietnam War, sort of Vietnam War soldiers with all the focuses, and your main guy, the general, essentially looks like someone straight from sort of a parody of the Vietnam War, Born to Peel, painted black, and It Ain't Me. It's all sort of really great. It's sort of a missed opportunity that they didn't give them Vertibirds. Because obviously you have the whole sort of Vietnam aesthetic with the choppers and everything like that. It would be kind of cool, but well, it's a very militaristic nation slash tribe trying to reclaim their homeland that they once knew. It's sort of very interesting, nice, sort of a nice feel to it. And the Lanius Legion just declared war on the Texas Brotherhood. They don't even have a direct land connection to these guys. So that's that is a strange thing. But well, good luck to the Brotherhood. If they reform Texas, we might want to ally with them, but definitely not if they are against Lanius. But here we go. Let's form Oklahoma. And big ol' lag, because obviously. But there we go. The funny thing is, this doesn't actually give us the cores. What gives us the cores is the individual focus tree, well, decisions, or the focuses. Yeah, the focuses from the focus tree essentially gives us the cores on these territories, and that's nice. That's something I think that should be implemented basically in Vanilla Heart of Iron 4 again. But well, there we go. Managed to form it. Well, now that Oklahoma has been reformed, it's only right that we try and stabilize the neighborhood of nations slash states, and we see that, well, yes, the Legion is a little bit aggressive. Ultimately, they're trying to restore civilization through a militaristic means. And as remnants of the National Guard of Oklahoma, we can respect that. However, what we can't respect is border gore. Yes, border gore, because as ghouls we do indeed appreciate some nice aesthetics. Because if you wanted to see something hideous, well, we could just look in the mirror. So it's nice that at least the borders would look right. And yeah, hideousness should be limited, because there's so much of it in our nation already that it's only right that we try and clean up at least the borders, even though we look like, well, zombies, right? Second useless nation done. And we should be heading towards kind of an interesting event, I do think, when it comes to the focus tree. We're gonna clean up these guys, the lodge as well, and then we're gonna see how the tides go. Because I was thinking about maybe joining if Texas forms. But seeing how powerful Lanius is, and seeing that they are at war with someone who's in, who's soon going to be in our immediate proximity, and to a certain degree already boarded them, it would be kind of interesting to, for a change, maybe cooperate with the Legion, because last time we obviously went against the Legion, or we had to go up against the Legion, not necessarily very willingly. But it would be nice every now and then to sort of cooperate with the Legion, because in every single Fallout thing, when it comes to the Legion, you always hear about fighting against the Legion. Well, what about sort of remotely allying with the Legion and trying to maybe restore some order when it comes to the Texas region as well? I mean, we already own a bit of Texas, so we could sort of claim that, we could sort of go with the Enclave route, couldn't we? And you could claim that, well, we're just trying to restore some good old American spirit, and who better to restore some good American values than a bunch of ghouls? Because, well, we still remember them. We don't have to make them up. We don't have to really read about them that much. We still remember them because we're 200 years old. In the meantime, let's check out the rest of the wasteland. So it looks like, yep, Caesar's Legion has busted through the Colorado, and they just declared war on the Mojave territory. So I think the Hoover Dam isn't actually all that important when it comes to fighting the NCR. It looks like Baja California might be a little bit more concerning for Kaiser and the NCR, but yeah, I decided that we're gonna cooperate with the Lanius Legion. Here we go with the first election. Now we could get a whole bunch of these people here who I'm sure have nice intentions, but yeah, those are some very powerful modifiers, but well, the leader of this nation just reformed Oklahoma, so let's keep him around. And plus he has a very interesting helmet. Very nice. Cult of personality, definitely. We do need manpower. I mean, we have 7,000, which that's actually quite a bit. But hey, what would you expect of someone of such magnitude reforming Oklahoma from... Actually, it's quite a feat if you think about it, because you start with 2 states essentially, and you do conquer your way down all the way, well, to reform a former state, right? So it's very interesting that they would give you negative stability and war support for keeping him in. You would think that he'd be quite the popular guy, wouldn't you? Seeing as he essentially destroyed all of the enemies of the ghouls. He reformed the state that they were National Guard for. It's, well, you'd think that he'd almost be revered as much as, like, President Tandy, but I guess, you know, ghouls just don't appreciate nice borders. I guess they just like hideous things. I mean, it makes sense, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you think so, that they would like hideous things, concerning they are looking at hideous stuff all the time? Like, how would... Like, let's not even go into those thoughts. Instead, let's declare war, and since they're a puppet of the Brotherhood, they immediately get called in as well. So now we are sort of kind of starting a war between Oklahoma and Texas, because we are ghouls of Oklahoma and they are the Brotherhood of Steel of Texas. So very interesting. And we are fighting against tube heads. Now I'm not entirely sure what tube heads are, but it does sound kind of well, not sure I really want to know. Tube heads. I should read about the, like, from a lore perspective, whatever, you know, from a lore perspective, a lot of things in this mod are sort of like, no, really. Like, for example, the addition of Mexico. I mean, you don't really have to take, you know, pay attention too much to the board. We're just gonna completely smash them, I think, here, because they've been, you know, exhausted so much by fighting with Alanius already. I think we can just, yeah, there we go, non-aggression, just to make sure. And very interesting. And let's get that military access. And yep, so we don't necessarily have to worry about that. Can't join the faction, kind of unfortunate, but like, this mod is very interesting when it comes to all of the nations. Some of the lore is made up, and it's really fitting no matter what. I'm kind of curious as to why they went with Mexico instead of maybe the east coast of the United States, or the former United States, because like the east coast is much more readily available when it comes to the lore, right? Let's get an attaché actually, just to see what our well, supposed allies see as well, just so we know the position of their troops. We don't have to sort of guess. Like, why would you go for Mexico when you have the East Coast available when it comes to like lore? You don't have to like needlessly create. We don't really know that much about Mexico when it comes to Fallout lore, right? I mean, you do have like Raúl in Fallout New Vegas, and some stuff in Fallout 1 and 2 when it comes to like the non-US parts of North America when it comes to Fallout, the Fallout universe, obviously, post-Great War, and even Great War, and pre-Great War as well, but not that much, not to the extent that this mod really gives attention to the overall situation. So, anyway, I'm just kind of curious as to, like, why? Sort of a rhetorical question, because obviously, like, why? Why Mexico? But, I mean, it's kind of cool. It really fits in rather nicely with the whole situation on the East Coast, or the West Coast more rather, because it's right there. It's like, it's right connected to Texas and everything, and Baja California, and California in general is very close. It's right there. So it does kind of make sense, and the East Coast more rather, is quite far away, so I'm not entirely sure how they would have fit that one in when it comes to like the interaction between like the Enclave and the Institute and everything like that with the NCR and the Legion. So yeah, it kind of makes sense now that I think about it. And the last remaining piece of, well, not nice border guard is this Assassin City, whatever that means. But, yeah, we're just gonna march on in. They don't really stand a chance. For some reason, the AI really likes to focus on those crossings. They just slam their entire army on those crossings and just leave, like, an entire border unopened. But there we go, managed to do quite a lot of damage when it comes to all of our enemies, but managed to do rather well actually. I really wasn't expecting this campaign to go as smoothly. Obviously I had a test run, but a lot of the focus tree is, well, focused around gaining like 2 civilian factories and 2 military factories. Doesn't really seem all that strong. But once you actually get into it and you get, into the party, for example, you gain those war goals against your immediate borders, you have the giant war, your generals level up, you do actually become rather strong. So, as you can see, we did actually build a rather prominent sort of position. You could almost say we kind of rival the Linnaeus cohort. We definitely, you could say that we rival the NCR. Both when it comes to legitimacy and when it comes to overall power and power projection. Now, it would be a little bit difficult to go up against Linnaeus at this point. We could clean up the borders a little bit, maybe even go against the Alamo chapter and those small little countries slash nations slash remnants down there, down southwards. But yeah, I think this is a fairly good point to leave the campaign. I mean, the focus tree is done, and we don't really have much of anything else to research. So, thanks, Kings, for watching, and see you next time.